Buenas tardes. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I was trying to take a nap. I don't usually nap during the day, but I could nap sitting up for a minute or two. This is the thing. You get to be a certain age, and especially with me, I do not sleep enough. 3, 4 hours a night, that is not normal, and that's not healthy. And then when I do a couple of days like that, then my body talks to me. And I have to find a way to just slow down and replenish. Hola Vivian, ¿cómo estás? So this afternoon, I've been racking my brain to see what is it that I can talk about. I know last week we talked about how to set up your utilities, your telephone. I explained to you that some people have gotten, I don't want to say in trouble, but I've had some unusually high electric bills for no reasons, and that the company that provides electricity, oh, excuse me, in the city here is not usually that responsive. Well, today, one of the sisters in our group said something to the effect that my persistent paid off and the company reimbursed her. I don't have the details as to what had happened with her, but she said she persisted and she was victorious. So that is amazing to hear. One of the things that I see a couple of sisters, this is it's all about life in Panama, or if you have a question about coming to Panama, right? Thank you for the thumbs up. Then that's the question if you have, ask me, right? And I see some sisters who have moved from one apartment to the other, and then it's taking them a long time to get their internet set up. And I don't have any answer as to why it's taking them weeks, which means you are without internet for maybe 2, 3 weeks. That's kind of disturbing, right? If you are like me, it's like I would say, okay, what do I do with myself? And sometimes the internet is off for like an hour, sometimes a few minutes. On a couple of occasions, it was hours. I went to bed and didn't have it. I mean, it's a little bit bothersome, but I keep saying, what did we do before internet? How did we conduct ourselves? Did we conduct business? So, and I know we are living in different times, right? I get that, but hola, auntie. But it is true. What did we do without um, internet? Now, one thing, Lachelle, hey neighbor, Miss Mary. We still don't hear from Miss Mary. I hope it's still the telephone issue. But one of the things about life in Panama as an expat is that sometimes people feel that because you're not in a place physically, the fact that you moved abroad, you kind of removed from the issues that you left or were surrounding you. And I want you to know that is not the case. We still feel affected by whatever is going on. And I think my next video is going to be about how I'm struggling with my faith these days, with in lieu of everything that is going on around. It takes, I don't know what it takes to hang on, right? Which is a lifeline as far as I'm concerned. But it definitely challenges me. I don't know about you. But then when I look, I said, I'm always looking back. How did the forefathers handle their situations, with, from all accounts, were worse So you got to constantly be having that talk with yourself so you can keep everything in perspective. So just like I tell people, moving abroad is not going to morph you into somebody different. You're still the same person with the same frailties, with the same bad habits, unless you keep working on yourself. Um, for example, right? If you are someone who, I've talked to sisters who talk about their anxiety level is such. Yes, moving abroad definitely can temper that. But if you have some intrinsic, meaning within yourself, um, problems with problem solving, right? If you're one of those people who panics at everything, who just, when something happens, you just flailing, it's just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the sky is falling. Well, that's not going to be any different here because, yes, you may not have the same issues, but you're going to have some issues. So your ability to problem solve is going to be the same. Things are still going to bring you anxiety, maybe not the same things. The way you problem solve, the way you solve problems, the way you attack a situation, those skills are things that you constantly need to be working on. Hola, Denise. How are you? So, moving abroad is not a fixer. It doesn't fix you. It fixes a few things in your life. There's a difference. And I don't want to be go into really detail because but your problem solving abilities are directly related to you as a person, your upbringing, what you have learned from life. Hola, Andrea. It's a nap kind of day. Well, I think I did take a little nap, but I woke up at like 15:48. I was like, oh, it's time to get up. Fix your face, put something on because I was in my moo in my moo. But as I said, this is one of those, I'm trying to be introspective. And, when you're in your high 60s and you are, and I was thinking yesterday, I said, I'm nearing 70. 50 did not phase me, 40 did not phase me. But for some reason, 68, it's like you're looking over the horizon and you are like, what is my life? You get up every day, you do these things, you go to sleep, and then you look around you and you see what's happening in Colombia. I think after um, the earthquakes in Haiti, earthquakes in Venezuela, I don't believe people in Colombia were kind of in a kind of expectation of what just happened to them. I don't believe that. It was always a surprise. We are always hoping that we are going to be spared for some reason. I don't know what we think we are. I posted tongue in cheek that I was in an Uber this week. And I always engage my Uber drivers in conversation, not just because of the Spanish practice, but I just like to connect with people. And I always want to find out what they're feeling, how they're feeling about things. So I said, ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo te fue con el temblor? Right? How did you do with the earthquake? And he said, oh, to tell you the truth, I didn't feel it. I said, were you in your car driving? He said, yes, I was in my car. But then he said he had a pastor, I think. He said the pastor told him in the past, when they've had some challenges or things happening in the region, but not to Panama, like bad hurricanes and stuff like that. You said the pastor told him, but you know what? Jesus was born in Panama. And we have so much faith, nuestra fe, he said. He said, I think, the pastor said, that's why we are protected. Oh my God, I just laughed so hard. Jesus was born in Panama, and that is why we are protected. But I feel like having a false sense of protection or being the luckiest in the region, I don't know that I could bank on that. And that's what we talked. Yeah, I know. I think it's tongue in cheek, but he was serious though. But I think sometimes we have a false sense of something we deserve certain things, right? Don't you ask sometimes after, let's say, a plane crash or something happens, and somebody was supposed to be on a plane, and they, for some weird reason, they didn't catch the plane, get on the plane, and then the plane crashes and everybody dies, right? And then you would say, oh, it wasn't your time. That would be my response. Oh, it wasn't my time, right? Somebody else's response would be, well, I prayed before I decided not to get on, so God protected me. And I'm always taken aback, and I'm like, but what about all those who died? Didn't they pray? Remember the plane that fell out of the sky in the Northeast somewhere, and it was carrying a team of young people, and they all died. I'm like, what about them? And that should stop you in your tracks when you try to act like you special in the scheme of things, that God is going to protect you but not protect that one. I don't know. And I think this is the kind of introspection as I'm getting older, realizing that life itself, your space in this world is so small. And you as a human being are such a small speck. So when I see people act as if they are somebody, I think, what was I doing yesterday? And on Instagram or something come on that the former president of Panama here, apparently he's been ill or whatever. And I think social media, I have to say, has kind of taken off the mask, and it peeled off whatever was giving each other, a certain opinion about people. But because on social media, people feel so emboldened, and it shows you their true colors, the lack of total empathy when people hear of somebody's demise, or they die in the earthquake. Oh, well, it didn't happen to me, God protected me. Or, oh, he's sick, he must have done something wrong. I just don't get it. And that grieves me. That grieves me that there are so many people around with that kind of mindset, that you can rejoice in somebody's pain, that institutions are just totally devoid of any humanity. And it's not even that. I feel like they go beyond feeling sorry for someone or a group of people to, this is sadistic, right? This is what that is. When you're sadistic is when you take pleasure in somebody else's pain. And there is so much of that going around. And when you think it's just institution, government, or established corporations or whatever, but then those are made of individuals, aren't there? They're made of people. So when you look at a big corporation and you say, oh, the person is stands in front, but he has all those people behind him, all those people who work with him, for him. And they all have those characteristics where you don't feel anything for anyone. Woo. At least it used to be that people would pretend. And even though I and a lot of other people say the mask has been pulled off, yes. But somehow you kind of wish that the mask was still on, don't you? That people wouldn't come out and say those things about someone. And I'm like, my gosh, how could you be so? And I usually run out of words because I usually do not have the right words to describe someone who I feel is at that level of, even animals care for their own. But then you have folks who are just spewing out this, oh, well, then they should have, it's like, who are you? What are you? Because your turn is around the corner. When I see the little child dying of cancer in pain, when you see this person who has nowhere to go, that's their turn. But your turn could be around the corner. And this is where I see there's a disconnect. The disconnect is that you have this group of people who feel so privileged that they don't feel anything can touch them, will touch them ever. But you go back and you say, but look at so and so. He was a billionaire. If he could have taken care of that issue, he would have. He would still be alive. But no, right now, they are unfazed. So going back to Panama, I think it pays for us to take those moments. Like I was going, and I was really tired today. And it was funny though. I had two Spanish classes scheduled, and then I was real sleepy because I spent 2 nights having like 3 hours of sleep. And like I said, after 2 days, then it catches up with me, and I have to stop and kind of recharge. My first class, everybody, something was going on, so I didn't have to teach the class. And then the second class, something happened too. So I got some rest, some much needed rest that I did not ask for. Now, I am someone who was, I can say, raised in the church. I went to Catholic school. I was raised with nuns. And at one point, I wanted to be a nun. I think you might have heard me say that story. I remember from kindergarten all the way through high school, I went to Catholic school with nuns. So the influence of Catholicism and that calling, I was raised around it. I had a religious experience. I was 16 when I got saved I was at a prayer meeting, and then I changed from being a Catholic to being a Protestant. And oh my God, that was like a major crisis, scandal in my family. Nobody in my family was going on that side. Maggie was the first. Oh my God. I remember my godmother. My godmother was a staunch Catholic. She was upset. And then when I look back, now most of my family have gone that way, right? So for me, my persona, the way I view life, has been shaped by those teachings and beliefs. And I told you I am a late bloomer. A lot of things did not come into clarity for me until I was in my 50s. Talk about being a late bloomer. Sitting back and saying, oh, this is how this world operates. Because in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I was just doing life, children, career, business. I was on that treadmill. I don't know I haven't had any major. Well, I got divorced in my late 50s. Maybe that was the time. I think maybe even before that I started saying, all this stuff you learn, especially about relationships, religion, what God says, punishment. And it was like I rebelled against a lot of that. I did. I'm like, you know what? Looking at what I'm looking at, it doesn't make sense, right? And it pays to have an aha moment like that where you're saying, wait a minute. But see, if you are on that treadmill called life, you don't get a chance to just sit and reflect because silence is uncomfortable to most of us. Oh, now I crave silence. But before, some people would say, oh, it's too quiet here. Let's put some music on, right? We're uncomfortable. Whereas the silence is what's going to peel off the layers. And you're like, wow, I never saw this like that. I heard the same things, but now it's got a different meaning. That's the part, that's the evolving part. So when I say like right now with everything that's going on, and I don't know that it's something new. We've always had things happen, but there is a heightened, on my part, a heightened awareness of things, um, a heightened ability to see beyond the obvious. Maybe it's age. Maybe it's because I have time. I'm not like on a schedule. Every hour is accounted for. Responsibility, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the, maybe that's that. I don't know. But I feel like at this age, I'm seeing a lot of things that I didn't see before. And I don't know if it's a good thing because it just causes me a lot of grief. When I see the state of the world, I don't have any grandchildren, and I am very grateful for that. But when you think of, if you want to go beyond the obvious and start looking forward, even though I don't have a crystal ball, I'm not a voyeur, to see what's happening. I don't believe in reading palm. You know how many times somebody says, "Yes, you want to go have somebody read your palm?" No, no, no. I don't want to know. Just like I don't want to go into a machine that's going to scan my whole body and say, "Oh, you have the beginning of this." No, I don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss in some ways, but the heightened awareness, that one has been creeping up. And I feel like my challenge, the struggle right now, is to remain planted despite all the waves that are going on. That to remain true to yourself, to your own values, that you don't necessarily associate with religion. To look at the way of the world and what I'm aware of, it's not pretty. As I was when I was a young mom, and you are very grateful for things, and you're on the treadmill, and you're trying to strive to get this and this and that. You're enjoying the race and all that, the chase. Now that you don't need to do all that, that's when you have the time to sit and say, "Oh, that's the way it is." And then I'm saying, but it's always been like that. I just wasn't at a place to really acknowledge it. You know what I mean? So this is where I am right now in terms of outlook and choosing how to live every moment, how to spend my time, what project to take on. Because you're kind of like at this age living closer to the end than you are to the beginning. And you're like, it doesn't look really nice. It doesn't. And it's not talking about, it's not depression. No, it's not. And it's not not appreciating where you are or what you have. Remember, I'm just trying to make it a little bit clearer for you guys. It's not that. And it's not taking on the whole weight of the world. I can't afford to do that either. So it's a daily walk. You acknowledge and then you choose how you walk. And even as an expat, it adds another layer, right? Because there is always that sense that you really don't belong if you are honest with yourself. I remember talking to a sister and I referred to something, a young woman who was Afro-Panamanian, born in Brooklyn, lived here in Panama for 10 years, and she said something about some of the mistakes an expat to come to Panama made. Immigrants, someone's going to say, an expat. And I mentioned that to someone the other day. This young woman said, the thing about accepting culture, understanding that this is the way life is wherever you go and you're not going to change it. And then one point, she had several points, but this one she said stuck with me. She said, immigrants should never associate or blur the line or misunderstand acceptance with integration. That you could stay in a place for 10, 15 years, 20 years. You're never going to be a local. I don't even know why that's difficult for someone. And one sister said, oh no, but I feel like I'm accepted. I'm like, she didn't say that. Somebody being friendly and tolerant about you being in their country, that is something that should give you an appreciation and humility, right? I think sometimes we forget that. We forget that being a good guest, because I don't care if you buy property, you're still a guest in someone's country, right? Because it's not in your DNA. And then she was arguing that, but I feel accepted. I said, I understand it. The locals that I associate with, they're pretty kind to me. But you're not one of them. Isn't that why they tell us mind our business? Don't get involved in protests. Don't go on your Facebook page and blast the country. There are some things happening here in Panama that kind of give some of us pause, some concerns. But you're not going to see me go on my page and just psh, psh, psh. No, you are a guest, right? And even though the whatever it is might affect you, you got to learn how to navigate. Well, you might say, well, then that means I'm not feeling comfortable. Well, that's for you to decide. When you're at home, don't you have to walk some carefully what you say, especially these days? So I just get a little turned off when I see people act like that, like they own the place, they are this, they are that, people go in places, they're loud, they're just attracting attention. You're not gonna find me in those places because I'm like, ooh, no, no. It's like you walk in a place and you say, I'm here, I'm an expert. Calmate, calmate. And they look at you funny. But they know who they are and they know who you are, even though you act like you don't know who you are or where you are. So, this is reflection today. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat. Wickedness is increasing. Auntie, This is another thing I realized. I don't think it's increasing. I think it's always been there. It's always been there. Sometimes it's been camouflaged into other things, but it's always been around. We just have not been aware, but it's always been there. Moving, doing, yes. Yeah, today I feel like, and I am introspective, right? But sometimes you have to stop because these earthquakes happening all around the world, even though we don't need a national disaster, they were. I saw a question somewhere today. It says, earthquakes are happening all around the world. Does that give you pause about your relocation plans? And I'm like, I'm happy I don't have to answer that, but what can you do about the earthquake, sis? You can't hide from whatever is going to happen. If it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you. So I don't know that I would halt my plan because of what's happening around the world. Climate change been going on for years. Yes, it's getting worse, but what can you as a person do about it? The institutions have to fight it out and they have the moral responsibility. But remember, responsibility is a foreign concept to a lot of people these days. It's like we will do what we want. We don't believe in this. We don't believe in that. And it's just, and this is another thing I've realized in this temporada, in this time we're living in, there are no barriers. No barriers. There are no standards. There are no red lines. It's like anything and everything can happen at any moment. We, as little peons and specks of dust, we're just blowing in the wind. And whatever happened will happen. If it's your time to go, it will be your time to go, sis. So you can't, and this is the work on myself every day. You know, I've always been that practical. But to understand that you're pretty powerless in a lot of ways. The only power you have is on you, your mindset, what you say, your action, your influence in your little sphere. A lot of us, we have a small little sphere that we can say something like I'm doing now that could cause somebody to think, oh, I never thought about it that way, right? I'm deciding this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to live my life. Yeah, you have control over that. But everything else, what can you do about it? And this is the wisdom, the practicality that is so lacking right now. We have a lot of people just flailing around like little butterflies and no substance. No substance. That is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. I know someone right now who, whenever you talk about something happening around and it's like this barrier, it's like, I don't want to be involved, I don't want to hear it. And it could be a defense mechanism, right? Because it could be the way this person can process it to keep themselves centered. And I am not judging anyone. Everybody handles themselves the way they see fit. And as I always say, I don't need to have an opinion. Yes, that is you, sir. That's how you, and again, that's something that's lacking. Because if someone say, well, I don't do it, and you're like, oh, yeah, and you say, no, you don't need to have an opinion. It's like, okay, sis, I don't need to have an opinion about your opinion. And I tell people all the time, I acknowledge a lot of stuff. When people act a certain way, I'm like, oh, this is my most favorite response. Oh, this is acknowledgement. It's not judgment. And that's why I tell people when you say something to me, I'm like, oh. Now, on the YouTube channel, when somebody says a statement, my job is to respond. Sometimes my response is, thank you so much for your comment. And I let it go. I am not going to engage. I don't argue people online. I don't respond to 99.99999. Many times somebody will say something and smoke starts coming out of my ear and I start typing and then I'm like, what are you doing? Delete, delete, delete. And no, you don't need to engage, Maggie. That's how I keep myself sane. Because you've heard me say a lot, there is a fine line between sanity and insanity. Because between health and sickness, mental, your job is to try to keep yourself on that side. Do not let people's opinions, actions, world events, or whatever make you just move to this side and then whoop, you get in that hole. And sometimes it's hard for you to crawl back out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, hi, Lynette. So ask me any questions you have. That is your time with me to ask me. I did a short little live earlier because I was, again, because that's why I'm a little tired. And this is the thing, too. In this age, when your body says you're tired, you stop. You take a nap, you take a nap. You need to sit down, you sit down, okay? Because this body is not going to go and do all the stuff it used to do. No, you can't. And if you want to act like you can, okay, I acknowledge. I don't have an opinion, sis. I really don't. And I think that level of detachment sometimes is also a coping mechanism, right? So I'm not going to be judgmental of a sister who doesn't think like I do, who blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. And I do believe in live and let live. I do not expect people to act like I do, to think like I to do as I do. No, no, no. We are individual. Let people live their lives. You don't have to be in their presence all the time. You don't have to be buddies with them. But let them live their life. It's got nothing to do with you. Isn't that great to just say, okay, sis, right? If you say, well, I can't hang out with you, you're stuffy, you don't want to have fun, okay, I'm too grown for that. Yes. Yes, ma'am. When you need to rest, you rest. So, what is happening in Panama? And remember, I'm not going to tell you the bad things that are going up, that are going on. And if you want to know the dirty, you need to subscribe to those channels so you can get your news. I am not going to be here in the public sphere. Just, I watch the news almost every day. I want to know what's going on. But I know it's like, oh, I know intellectually, but I don't need to. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Don't need to air the dirty laundry. Today, one of my Panamanian friends, you probably watching, sent me something that today is the anniversary of the birth of Panama City in 15 something. It is the 507th year. You know what? If somebody plays the lotto, they need to play 507. 507 is our area code. And I think he said today is the 507th anniversary of the city of Panama. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So, I love to learn these little bits of information from him. He always keeps me straight. So I am doing this series on different neighborhoods because I feel like it's helping me to learn more about Panama. I think I know a little bit, but there are so many layers about the country that I may not be aware of. Even our own country. So I love that. I love that, and that is also a coping mechanism, a type of distraction from the day-to-day bad news and all the stuff that is going on that we are worried about and listening to, right? So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, what else can we talk about today? We talked about getting your electric. I told you told you that so many sisters, well, not too many that I know of, people moving from one apartment to another and then having to wait to get their internet hooked up. Nothing we can do about it. Now we have internet providers. We have a few. The most common one is Tigo. Tigo will also give you your Wi-Fi, your internet, and you can also get your cell phone from them, which means you can do a bundle package. I don't have the bundle, and I can only assume that the bundle would be cost effective, right? My cable comes regular. I think it's like a 44.90 something, so $45 a month, right? And my cell phone, I do have my internet through Tigo, and I do my cell phone is T-Mobile, not T-Mobile, T-Mobile, right? And T-Mobile, when I first got here, did not used to do internet, but now they do. So every time my phone rings and I see a strange number, it's usually someone from T-Mobile saying, I say, you know, Maggie, and they want to offer me, and I like, I want to change. I paid $30 for my cell phone with unlimited everything. I'm not changing. I've never had a problem with them. Why should I change? Yes, Tigo, sometimes the internet goes off. But the whole thing about switching accounts, filing papers, and I'm not doing that. So you have T-Mobile, Tigo, you have T-Mobile or Massmobile, it's the same thing. And they used to have Digicel here. For some reason, Digicel, they say they had to exit the country, so they left. And there used to be a lot of people working for them. And then now they have a company, it's not new, called Whippet, WIPET, which is another internet provider. I've heard some people chatting online. Some people say, oh, it's much better than Tigo. And then someone will chime in, oh, they've been terrible. And I'm like, I'm staying where I am, right? And then what I hear is the best one, especially in those mountain areas, is Starlink. And Starlink, I think, is owned by Elon Musk. Of course, it's the brainy guy with all the advanced digital whatever. Uh, but when you move to a building, they say you need to ask. If you don't want the two major one, did Tigo or Mobile, then you have to ask if in your building they have the cabling and whatever for Whippet or Starlink. So it's not something that automatically you can just choose. You have to ask. And of course, they say the Starlink is the best in terms of not getting what we call apagados, where it doesn't work, and of course, they're probably more advanced. And the other two we talked about are probably a little bit on the grandpa side. They're probably older, right? So that's that. And I see it as I keep saying, the infrastructure is better than most countries in Latin America, Central America, but it's still fragile. So don't expect perfection. You will have some times where you don't have access to it. So that's when I say, have a couple of books around so that with me, I can cook something. I can pickle something. You do something. Let's see what else do they have going around here. This is August, so not a lot in terms of uh, community excitement. The canal, I haven't heard much about the canal, so everything is hunky dory, and at least we don't know about anything might be going on. Um, some areas still struggle with water, and um, when it rains a lot, things flooding. That's That's the name of the game. You are in a country that is fragile in some areas, and the terrain and all that. Such is life. C'est la vie, right? Um, Government wise, nothing. The la primera dama, the president's wife. She has an office and she's on Instagram and I follow her. And she does a lot, like most first ladies, she does a lot of community stuff. And she sounds like a very compassionate person. There is a group, an association. I'm trying to let them allow us to come and help them. Listen, you would think this is something that's easy. It is not in Panama to volunteer. People think they can just go in there and show their face and say, "Oh, I'm American. I like to volunteer." It doesn't work that way. I tell people, wait. Panamanians are very slow to make their decisions or their mind. That's just the mindset it is. Nobody jumps into doing anything. And as a foreigner, there is a certain amount of distrust. It's like you kind of have to earn your stripes, right? In terms of how long you've been here, what you've been doing, how diligent you are in showing interest. So I made contact with this group. They were, again, and I told you that before. If you want to know what's happening in the country, you need to be on Instagram because this is how they communicate. Not so much on Facebook. And then the different groups. And there was a sister the other day was saying, "Well, I sent so many emails," and I'm like, "They don't look at your email, sis. You need to WhatsApp." This is what they do here. If you want to communicate, you need to have a WhatsApp, and that's why you get the 507 number, the local number, right? So you got to WhatsApp. And even then, they're not going to rush to respond. Okay? They'll take their time because there's nothing rushed about this space here. No, nothing, nada. Okay? So I was talking to one of my students. She's so funny. I think she's thinking of coming to Panama. And she said, "I think that mañana mindset is going to really work with me, work my nerves." And she's like, "How about um, Amazon, my Amazon Prime? How's that going to work?" And I'm like, "It's not going to help you here. The the Amazon Prime is going to work from the warehouse to your address in Miami. And then from Miami, they'll bring it to you when they bring it to you. Usually 7 days, could be 14 days. It depends on what's going on." She's like, "Oh, that's going to." I'm like, "Yeah, you probably don't need that Amazon Prime anymore." Uh-huh. Is your cable through Tigo? Yes, it is. That's what was recommended to me when I first started here. And then after that, this Mass Mobile, because before I didn't know them as an internet provider. I don't have the Whippet, nor do I have Starlink. Probably not going to do Starlink. Hola, Carol, the realtor. Long time no see. So, all right, I know we've talked ad nauseum about healthcare. Oh, maybe I can talk to you guys about this co-living. I spoke to a beautiful woman in Mexico called Michelle. She's got like a German last name, Wettenberg or something like that. And she's had like a little boutique hotel for years now. And then now she is um, branching, or she has branched out into co-living. I know a lot of you are interested in co-living. And I posted an article on that little page that I have. That page is not like my regular page because you have to have so many subscribers or whatever for me to do live and stuff like that. So it's like a but I post articles and stuff on there when I have them. And this is a place for you to find each other. So what we've talked about is how can we support each other, me exposing y'all to her business and what she's offering, but it's in Mexico. And probably, she's been there 8 years herself. So she's got a child, she's well connected, right? And she is very well versed in the immigration issues, rental, healthcare, right? And of course, services. So she has a place she calls hacienda. Hacienda is like a homestead, right, in Spanish. And she currently has 6 rooms, and you can. I mean, we didn't go into pricing, okay? But what she does for the co-living concept, which is not quite what I was thinking of as co-living, because when I'm thinking co-living, I'm thinking about maybe somebody sharing a dwelling, right? Like I know a couple of sisters here are doing, but it doesn't have to be one thing. It could be a combination or a variation of something else. So she kind of showed, give me a view of a place, the hacienda. In, I don't know if you know, in Mexico, in Latin America, having been to several countries, unless you live in a high rise in the city, most of the places are like 1-story homes, kind of gathered around a courtyard, which I think is so cute. So she has that. So her rooms are scattered around a central area, and each room she's got queen size rooms and king size rooms, and very beautifully fitted. Every place has their own bathroom, and they have some common area, the kitchen and courtyard and pool and all that. So that is a different model of co-living, but it can still work because you have your own little space. Hi, G Wash. You have your own little private area, and there's a patio, which is nice. I love a little patio. It doesn't have to be big. Somewhere where you can sit, put your feet up, have a little table, have your coffee while you're looking at nature, right? We're not looking at the water like I'm looking at water, we're looking at nature. That's even better, right? So, and then you have your sisters, the people who rent or are around you, and then you can cook together. And then there are a lot of, where she is at, a lot of activities, social activities. She talks about, there's a group that created a, um, yes, I think that's even better, Carol. A gospel group, right? And then I was telling her, I said, I don't know, I'm not a taco person. I don't think, but I think I can cook. They wouldn't be a problem for me. She said, "Oh, I'm tacos." She said, "I'm catering a party, and we're having oxtail and rig." I'm like, "Oh, now you're talking." So you can create a community within the larger community, and housekeeping is provided. They feed you breakfast, and you can go in the kitchen and cook whatever you want, right? So I was excited about that. I told her we can think about some collabs where I'm going to bring her on one of these Saturdays where we can ask her all the questions. And one of the things that I would like to do, I've been wanting to go to Mexico anyway. Just go, and maybe when I go there, the earthquake will hit. They do get earthquake there. You can't escape, sis. So they were showing when the earthquake started in Colombia, there were some people on a plane waiting to take off, and the plane started shaking. Can you imagine how scary that is? I mean, I don't know. So this is what I would really consider going there, taking a look. Because she does have a little boutique where you could go there if you just wanted to visit the place, but then also probably take you on a tour of the hacienda, and then you can talk to her when she comes on. We can ask her a question about cost, longevity, but she's also open to people doing so short-term rental just to try it out and see. If you say, "Well, I'm going to come and stay for 3 months," that's kind of nice, right? Because co-living is such a newer concept for us in this age. There is co-living in the not corporate business world, and I think Carol had put me on to, is it Pad Slip or something like that, where people, investors, are now using their properties and retrofitting them as co-living spaces for people who are professionals. Let's say you move to a new place or your job transfers you and you're not ready to buy, so you can't just rent this space in a house. Maybe you share it with two or three people, and then everything is provided for you, housekeeping or whatever. And so people are thinking outside the box, okay? Because co-living started in the Netherlands, right? And it was multi-family kind of a model where you had people with children, older people, people working, and then living in a community with shared responsibilities and commitments, right? And the way I've always started in my head, it's like a condo association, but with more responsibilities. Because for us, if I were to consider a model like that, they would have to be, um, I don't want to say legal, but there has to be some specific responsibilities in order for you to be accepted into this model of caring for one another, because this is what SWRA is about. We want to be older to age while we support each other. So when a sister is in need, it's not, oh, I'm too busy. No, ma'am. Your contract says you are going to jump in and assist. And of course, you're going to have barriers. It doesn't mean that you're going to take care of this person. You're more of a facilitator and support in a supportive role, right? But what she's providing is that support, right? Taking you to the doctor, taking you shopping if you need to, taking you on those social events, right? Gardening is provided, housekeeping, and all that. So I think it is worth looking at, and who knows, maybe something like that can be replicated here, right? Because I am not against SWA having different chapters around the world. And again, it doesn't have to look the same everywhere. It's not like what do they call that? A franchise where you can't, deviate one little bit, from the model. It's not like that, right? Because the location will dictate the format. And the hacienda, that makes sense because again, it's not with no high rises. For those of you who don't like height, that would be perfect, right? And the other thing we shared is that I am not uh, just close-minded to say, oh, this is the way I envision it, this is the way it's going to be. No, I'm open to saying, oh, well, it could work like that. And that's what you have to do. You have to be open minded to be able to shift if you need to. So I'm excited to share that with you. And when I'm going to post something in the, not the chat, but on the YouTube and Facebook page about, she sent me some specs about her business and her and then I want to bring her on and just, have her present. And she's very personable. And what's the word we use when somebody speaks real well? And to talk about, because, when you're a business owner, I understand that part. Nobody can talk about your business like you. Uh, what's the word, Carol, when you say somebody is for international? Ooh, listen to her. She already has a tagline. Good spices. I think the food is exceptional. I just don't like rolling little thing with meat and others. I just don't. And plus the tortillas. I was in Guatemala. I did not care for these corn tortillas. They were tasteless, absolutely tasteless. And I'm like, I'm a taste queen. I'm like, no, no. But I love the black beans and the chips. Oh, I think when it comes to food, I can adjust anywhere. I can adjust because I wanted to do an Asian tour so I can really learn the tea culture and learn to make good dumplings. But then when I said, oh, that flour, no, I don't need that because flour and I just don't work well together. I just cooked something that a sister came to my party last time and she brought me a little jar with those grains. I didn't know what they were, so I went online and looked to see the shape. It looks like barley. I've never bought barley, so I cooked it just now. It's really good. It definitely different from quinoa and rice. So I had it today, so we'll see what happens to my face tomorrow. How swollen I'm gonna be. And if I'm not, then that means there is a grain that I can tolerate. So yes. And one concern with Mexico, and again, understand that loving Panama doesn't mean you don't consider other countries if they work best for you, right? It doesn't make you a sellout. You know, Mary, what's her name? Marie Season Life, Mary Golf. She posted on her page, I think yesterday, because she left Lakeland and she went to Portugal, and of course, the mind wanted to know what happened. And I think she had a post where she talked about some things that have happened. I'm pretty sure they had a lot to do with her relocating, but she's saying when you leave a place, it doesn't mean something bad happens, right? It means that your needs may have changed and that other place is a better fit at this time. So we have to allow ourselves that level of flexibility. And that's why I don't badmouth anyone or anything. And I did that. I had the same attitude with work. And when I used to hire people or letting people go, I said, you know what? It takes skills for you and vision for you to say, I will never leave a job on bad terms because you never know. You might need to go back, circle back. Now, my last job that I left, probably, not that it's a concern. I mean, I didn't leave on bad term. I wrote my letter and that was it. But you always want to leave on good terms because you don't know when you have to come back. And remember, with Panama, you once you get residency, you don't have to stay here all the time. There is no residence requirement. There is now you have to stay for 6 months. A lot of other places you have to stay a minimum of 6 months per year to keep your residency. Panama, so far, does not have that. All you need to do is show your face every couple of years and they stamp your passport. I don't even know that you have a minimum amount of days to stay. Maybe you say 2 or 3 days or a week. And then you go back. So if you were to become a resident of Mexico or Ecuador, or just ask whoever's working with you, what are the residency requirements? And I don't believe Mexico has that either. So you can be bi-coastal. It could be, in both places. Makes it a little bit logistically difficult because you can't have an apartment here, you're paying for it, and then you're over there. You know what I'm saying? I don't have money to spend like that. So I would have to personally decide to stay in one place and then visit the other place, and because now a lot of us are pursuing multiple residencies, and I think it's a good thing to do because you never know. You never know. Remember, we kind of nomads right now. So you don't know what wind might blow when. So I don't think it's a bad thing. Yep, I don't think it's a bad thing. And of course, um, people will tell you that Mexico has really tightened their financial requirements. Okay, so but if you can do it, why not? I've wanted to visit, so I want to go visit. I don't know when. I don't like to fly around this time of year with this crazy weather, all these clouds, because when the planes start, I'm not gonna do well. That's when I need my Benadryl to knock me out. I'm a terrible traveler. I love to travel. I travel between December and May. When I know on the Atlantic side it's not going to be too crazy. Once it starts to be the hurricane season, I don't go anywhere. I don't go anywhere. But that's me. I'm scared. Yeah, that was Mary Golf. I like the idea, Maggie, of having SWAT around the world. Yeah, Because, I mean, we're still working on clarifying exactly who we are and what we're about. But one thing that is not, in my mind, has not changed is aging in place in community. However we write it out, however we describe it, that's it. We want to support each other as we age and be able to afford growing older, so we're not out there begging and bagging groceries. And yeah, so whatever money we have, if we can find a way to make it stretch, that's where the investments and the account comes in. You could get a few dollars extra every month. That's a few dollars every month. Being frugal about how you use your money, not being able, not having to try to impress people with all the stuff that you want to be around your house, your car, what you wear. Oh, aren't we tired of all that? We are just too old. I just went into a big soliloquy earlier to tell you that in this age, I'm thinking I'm closer to that end than I'm closer to that. So every action that I take has to be framed with this in mind, that I have to think about health, disease, support, disability, and the cost, right? So if, let's say, someone like Carol and I, we both love to cook, right? And we're in a place where we can support the sisters by make sure we all have healthy meals. That's my contribution, right? And it's helping you. Who is my neighbor if you are in this? And the sister in Mexico, she has like 4 acres. So I said, wow, that means you can build some more dwelling for the sisters. And that's what I've been looking for over here in Panama. I know it's not a possibility in the city. There was a house for sale close to my building. I kept eyeing it. But I said, you know what? I'm on Balboa Avenue. I would probably be able to afford it. Location, location, location. They'll see the name, they'll see, but you are on Balboa, you are close to Balboa. This is the price for 5 square meters. That's how they price it. Well, we do square foot over there. So I even asked her sister this past week. I said, there's a developer in town who is really big on developing big high rises. Well, because that's where he sees the money, with us and other people. But we have decided as a group that we don't want to buy because we don't know how long we're going to be here. And that's the thing. If we're thinking Mexico, Ecuador, and then you bought something, you stuck. Okay. And I don't want to be stuck anywhere. All right. So, and I was like, okay, how can we make this happen? Hi, Leila. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo va tú? That's my sister-in-law. Um, so how can we make this work with our model in mind as creating a place, because now we are scattered, right? In the city. We are scattered. We have a sister in Volcan. We can help her if she needs any help, right? And isn't that the purpose of the sisterhood? To be able to just walk and knock on someone's door. Are you okay, sis? Can I do anything for you? That hacienda makes that possible, right? So here in this area, if I was thinking of asking the developer, and I asked the sister, I said, "Do you know so and so?" She's like, "I don't know him, but I know some of his staff." I said, "Can you just try to get me an appointment?" And I want to go to him and say, "Sir, these are the demographics. Have you thought about the possibility of switching your focus a little bit and considering this demographic over there? Because we are good renters, we pay our rent, right? And most of us will, hi Bertha, and most of us will take care of the place. And plus, if you have, maintenance and whatever, they'll make sure your place is so. And we are willing to pay to sign a multi-year lease. At least the minimum would be 3 years. I wouldn't want any higher than that, right? Because we don't know when the time will come. So she said, yeah, I know so and so. I said, try to get me an appointment. And I know they know the land. And I personally would not want to be involved in building, renovating anything. Or the mañana mindset would drive me absolutely crazy. So that's why you need somebody else to do that, right? So if that developer, and I'm like, because I saw some lands advertised in places like Coquelin, Penenome, there is a subdivision. I was ready to go look at a house, but then I'm like, I'm not buying it. And I don't think they want to consider renting it. But if a developer with the cash were to create like little communities, because that was my vision way back when at home. My vision was multiple family homes. Like you could have a home that could accommodate like 5 people. And then you hire a house manager and then you do all that. But if you have a dwelling like this hacienda, right? I'm thinking you buy a plot of land, the land has to be strategic, and then you build it where people are close to each other, and then we have centralized area. That's my vision. But how this is going to come about, I don't have a clue because I certainly don't have the money to do it. Um, the other day, I went to have coffee with a sister here in town, and I saw a building, and I was like, oh, that building would be perfect for us. It's like 2 or 3 stories, and then it loops around a corner and it's smack in the middle of town. And it was funny. I said, I'm claiming that building in the name of Jesus. And she's like, I'm claiming it with you. I know we were just joking, but that's what ultimately we have in mind. How do we make it work logistically is still elusive. We would need somebody with capital and vision to see it. So I'm putting it out there in the universe. There were so many flight delays when I came back last week. I ended up at JFK in El Salvador. Wow. Wow. And you know, they had an earthquake in El Salvador. So the whole along the Pacific, we are all at risk. We are at risk here in Panama. All right, Carol, I hear you, sis. When you find your land, what do you think of using shipping containers as the foundation for teeny homes? Whoo. I am not very knowledgeable about the tiny homes, but shipping containers, personally, I don't know that I would be comfortable with that. I want traditional concrete. So I don't know anything about the container, shipping containers. But you know, the homes that I'm thinking of are not going to be big. One bedroom, one bath, a little area, a little patio, a little kitchen. That's it. We want it to be compact and small so we can afford it, so we can still be comfortable, right? You have a little desk area, you have a little patio for your coffee, and your neighbor is right next door. Mhm. That's what I'm thinking. I haven't toured a tiny home. I've seen 1 or 2 on TV, and I'm not familiar with the shipping containers. And I don't know if it's you who asked me that. Somebody asked me and said, "What do you think? Do you think people would be open to the tiny home concept?" I'm like, if you build it, they'll come. You're gonna find someone, but I am not. I wouldn't be spearheading that because I'm not familiar with it. Um, You love shipping container dwelling. There you go. Carol says she loves that idea. Teeny home community would be wonderful. So the shipping containers, that's where I probably need to look at it a little bit and see. Um, yeah, if you find the land and then you can have, you know, the backup generator, backup water tank, all that, and security. Ah, that's a big one. Yep. Articulate. Okay. Maggie shipping containers are more durable than wood and traditional building material. I will send some to you. Okay, good. That would be great. Well, you say shipping containers. I cannot see shipping containers. I don't know. I'm very ignorant of that concept. That is for sure. At least we don't have to worry about tornadoes. Of course, there is the risk of flooding, so you would have to be a little bit elevated. But again, this is the job of the developer, because if it's their investment, they're gonna do the research and see. But in a place like Panama, things move so slow that a new concept will take a long time for them to say, "Oh, that could work." That's gonna be a problem. Yep. Maggie, from what I know of you, you are one of those willing to learn. Absolutely. If you build it, they will come. Exactly. So, Sapadi, Sapadia woman, if you have a way to, and of course, remember, coming to a new country with a new concept, that is no easy feat. Okay. Especially a place like Panama where everything moves so slowly. Yes, that's probably your biggest challenge. The idea could be great, but switching the mindset and having somebody with the capital to buy into it, that is. But I would definitely love to kind of learn about the teeny homes, and if they can be retrofitted close to each other so people, like duplex model, that people are close to each other and have that community central area for socialization, and I have so many ideas of what we could do, bringing kids and the gardening and all that. There's a lot that could be done. Aging in place, that is a beautiful thing. One might drive to Boquete or Buenaventura. I saw a few. Oh, tiny homes? Okay, good. I actually think tiny house living is great, but you're right. Um, in a different country, it would be a challenge. Yeah, getting it off the ground. I think that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Creative girl, hola Maggie. My mom and I chatted with you in February. Oh, hola. When we first moved to Panama. Oh, wow, you are here. I think SWA could be a great way for her to make some social connection. How could I get her involved? You need to send me an email. I'm going to put my email in the chat again, even though it is on the page. And then I do a little vetting. I meet with every candidate so we make sure we are on the same page, and then we get you in. It's a wonderful community. I'm proud of my ladies. We are about 39 to 40, so we're not huge by any means. And the numbers, that's not what we're about. We're about people with that vision, what we're talking about right now. If you want to be a loner, you want to be on your own, you don't want to be involved, people bothering you, you don't belong in our community, because we're trying to be together as we exit, right? Yeah. You're welcome. So, tiny home. Okay. So, is that a community in Boquete? I wouldn't want to be anywhere near Boquete if I were to build anything or put a community. No. Mm-mm. I know it's pretty and beautiful, but no. I went to Boquete last time. I was in Alto Boquete, and the house I was in, the well, I'm gonna go. Is it a balcony? It wasn't enclosed. Was looking straight at Volcan Baru. I mean, it was fresh and lovely, but I was bored to tears, and I was like, "Whew, I don't know if I could stay here." I know I couldn't. All right, let's see what else. Healthcare is something we talked about, because I tell people one of the, I don't know what you would describe that, excuse me, is that people talk about, maybe some creators like myself, oh, healthcare is beautiful, it's so affordable. And I'm like, is it really? Right. You're healthy. right? It sounds like, well, let me go back. The care itself that is delivered and the providers definitely are way better than what we used to. You know, the level of caring, of involvement, time spent with you, the human touch, those are things that we can put a price on that are lacking in our system over there. Here, as an expat, you got to have some capital to go see the doctor, to pay. Doctors, unless you have one of those insurances that are really well known here and you're younger, it's pay as you go, right? So depending on what's happening with you, I've been here almost 4 years. I only recently went to see a doctor, right? Because I mean, I'm not sick, thank God. But what we worry about in any location that we would consider putting a teeny home, village, or whatever, the medical would have to be a huge component. Accessibility, proximity, right? So I know the reason I mentioned Cocle and Penenome is that I know they have a newer hospital and they have another hospital. So you wouldn't feel like you have to drive to Panama City to see a doctor. You may have to drive to Panama City to see a specialist because in a lot of the smaller communities outside the city, seeing a specialist is probably non-existent. So you have to. And Penenome is like 2.5 hours from the city. It's not close. And that Pan American Highway is a death trap. Lots of accident and stuff. And you get stuck on there with traffic. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. Could you find a community closer to the city? Probably. Probably. In the beach areas, San Carlos, Chame, in those areas, absolutely. Right? And I think the healthcare situation is not causing, it's opening the mind of some people who've been here to say, okay, as we look forward, how is that going to work? Because one of the goals of SWA is not to allow a sister to feel like she has to return because she's gotten ill, right? We want to come around our sister and help coordinate care and support. That would be an expectation, right? So, in terms of assisting with the medication, assisting with transport to and fro, keeping the communication between the family at home and here, and making sure the sister is getting her care, right? Because that's the issue. When somebody gets, let's say you're on dialysis or you need rehab, you cannot be left alone because you're fall risk and all that. Yes, we come in, we make sure you have the therapist coming, you have the person coming to help you, bathe you, walk with you. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is because I'm a geriatrician. I know what is coming, what could come. Not all of us, thank God, right? Some of us will be lucky, we go to bed and we don't get up. I'm signing up for that one. But it could be a long process, right? And then in whatever agreement we have, what about somebody develop dementia and they become unsafe? What do? You can't let your feelings get into it because you have to be realistic with the progression of a disease. And do they have hospice here? It's not the same thing. So we have to find a way to adjust to wherever we are. And, they did a survey not too long ago, and I think they said the best retirement place, Panama was on top for 2 years. And I think recently, I don't think it's International Living, another um, publication did a survey, and El Salvador now went to number one because this this president has clean house with the crime. So They're working on the healthcare, but they say it's the safest place right now for you to be. And Mexico was number two. So Mexico and Colombia are ranking high on medical tourism. What that means for us, even though it's not medical tourism, it means they are used to us. They are used to foreigners, what our expectations are, what our concept of health is. Because this is culture, right? To know that in this community, this is how they view health. So those countries are ahead of Panama in that case because Panama medical tourism is very little. Colombia is huge on that. They have whole hospitals dedicated to people coming, getting hips and knees and all kind of surgeries and um, tummy tuck and all kinds of surgeries. So, as is India, but who wants to go all the way up there to India? So this is a lot closer. So the practicality of things is super important. And then we can't make those decisions based on our feeling. Oh, that's pretty. That one is beautiful. You got to go beyond that. Our needs, and we're not talking about any other demographics. I'm talking about those of us who are looking and we want to be the one to create that life for us. And that's what SWRA is saying. Can we age abroad in community safely and affordably? That's it. That's it. It's not complicated, but then it is. It is. All right, ladies and gents. Anything else? What time is it? I don't have my watch. I know we've probably been talking. 5:34. Yes, it's been an hour and a half. Anything else? Anything that you have a burning question? They have not made any changes to the pensionado program. Some people have said that. And the attorney I use, Giovanna, is always good at um, busting a lot of the myths. You know, all of a sudden something starts spreading, some rumor starts spreading, and she's like, "No, that's not true. No, that's not true." I don't know how people start with these things. It's like, okay, where did you see that? Show me the article. Where did you see it? Right? Because that's why you stay connected to your attorney. If there is a change in the law, they will be sending out a newsletter and letting everybody know. So why do you go and believe someone? You say, "Oh, did you hear? Yeah, where did you hear it from? Can you send me the source?" And then send a question to the attorney. Listen to your attorney. So I just don't. Sometimes something will come on a page. I was like, next. I just don't. I don't. I'm very impatient that way. I don't spend time reading all shenanigans. Or somebody is writing like a long expose. I'm like, I don't have time. My mind switches off. I go next. I don't have time. Lordy, lordy, lordy. All right, guys. So today was more about reflecting and telling you about this co-living collab that we are considering. Um, and if I do get to Mexico and tour this and that, I will do a live or something to show you. But one of my sisters who was in Mexico, she was in Merida. Merida is the place that is really hot. So now she's in Vietnam and she said it's hot too. I'm like, oh. And she traveled, I don't know how many hours. Mexico to Houston, Houston to Taiwan, was it Taiwan? Taiwan to New Dong or whatever in Vietnam. That's a long ride. I don't know how I could do it. I don't like planes that much. Mm-mm. All right, ladies, thank you so much. I just love the fact that you guys hang on and keep listening to my shenanigans. But you know what? It's musing with a purpose, right? Thank you. So tomorrow I was like, one sister is like, Did anyone take volunteer to relieve you of whatever tomorrow? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm cooking tomorrow. So today we went to the fish market and I kind of showed you what I got. I got a big mackerel fish, and I'm thinking I'm gonna use two or three of those steaks, and we're gonna do some kind of a soupy thing. I said, and I haven't been to the store. I said, I'm looking at what I have. I have chickpeas, I have some peppers, I have kale, and I think I have a can of white beans. So we're gonna do some kind of a fish white bean kale soup. I think that's gonna be fine. It's light enough. I bought some grouper, but I just had a grouper, so I'm good. I'm not gonna eat anything else for the rest of the evening, and then we'll call it a day. Yep. And I already saw a movie, so I don't have to go to the movies tomorrow. Usually after the lives, I'm tired. And I saw that what is it again? Um, Matt Damon. It took me forever to remember that man's name. I'm looking at him in his six pack. He was so looking so fine. And I'm like, what is his name? And when I can't remember names, I go A, B, C, D, E. And I still couldn't remember. Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway, they were superb in that movie. Obsession or whatever. Anyway, I forgot the name of the movie. But I'm not into Spider-Man, any of those things. So I usually just go in there and wander in, and usually it's a matinee, so there's not too many people in there. And I had quite a few people in there this time, but it was still quiet and calm. So I enjoyed it. All right. You posted a suggestion, but I forgot what it was on bean. Oh yeah, I saw it. Bean fritters. Fritters sounds like something you fry. You said putting it in the oven? Okay. I don't fry anything anymore. Yeah, I have to look it up, but I always have chickpeas. That's something that is a given. Chickpeas, pimiento, which are the bell peppers, onion, garlic, things that I always have. And I try to have all my herbs, like my cilantro, my rosemary, and thyme. Those are like, tools of the trade. When I don't have them, I feel some kind of way. All right. All right, ladies, have a good night, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate you. God loves you. You know I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye. Bye, Layla. Thank you, ladies, for joining in today. Bertha Shaw. You're not the one who had the birthday today, are you? We had a birthday. We had a birthday today. I don't remember if it was your last name. G Wash. G Wash? You're not Jeannie. I don't think so. All right. Good afternoon. Talk to you soon. Oh, I always go to the wrong button. Bye. I can bake them. Thank you. All right. I think I am still going to rest today, the rest of the evening. I'm listening to my body, drinking my water, and flushing all the stress out of my body. All right. Au revoir. Good night.